Hi guys, my name is Chioma Daniela and welcome to Inside Nollywood Conversation. Okay, while we're waiting for our guests, I would want us welcome to Inside Nollywood Conversation. But before we proceed, I would like us to give a moment of silence for our friend, partner, colleague, great actor, late Don Brimo. And may his gentle soul rest in peace. Amen. So on today's conversation, we're going to be talking on how Nigerian filmmakers can compete with best filmmakers globally on leveraging IP. As some of us know, Nigerian film producers are going through many challenges in film production. I can remember back in the days when I had this movie project, when we shot this movie, it was actually a mind-blowing concept. It was a good story, and I believe that movie would have made it to AMVC award. But unfortunately, we could not finish because of financial issues. And again, most of the producers have this problem whereby they submit their movies. At the end of the day, they no go get shishi. At the end of the day, they no go pay them their money. After all the stress and everything, they won't get back what they give. So we have these issues in movie production, in filmmaking. These are the issues most of the producers are facing. So on today's note, we're going to be talking to you guys on the solution at hand. We're going to be solving the problem at hand. And with me here, I have a very wonderful guest, a beautiful one at that, the founder of IP Business Capital, Mrs. Mrs. Ololade Ololniyo. I'm sorry for that mistake. Okay, Mrs. Ololade Ololniyo. So I would leave her to introduce herself. So please, ma'am, can you tell us and your journey so far, practicing law and entertainment, practicing film and entertainment law?
Sorry, I don't know if it's just me. I can't really hear you. Can anybody hear
Okay,
me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. If you can project a bit, I would hear you.
Okay. So can you tell us about yourself and your journey so far practicing film and entertainment law?
Okay, thank you so much. Um so I started my career way back in 2016, right? When I got out of law school and I started to practice. Um myself basically, I think as a person, I'm generally a very creative person. I like storytelling. Anything that has to do with storytelling, creativity, innovation, those things are very dear to my heart, right? So when I started my journey as a lawyer, I worked in a couple of law firms for like 5 to 6 years, got an understanding of corporate commercial law practice, did a little bit of litigation here and there. And then I started to ask myself, what do you really want to do, right? So I started to dig deep, started asking questions. I went on that journey of trying to find myself. And then I figured that, okay, I love anything creativity and innovation. I started to look for the area of law that was a bit closer to that. I found intellectual property and entertainment. And the interesting thing about IP and entertainment is that it gives you the liberty to explore, right? You get to interact with different people. It's basically about creativity. So you're just enjoying yourself, you're doing what you love to do, right? So, oh, NEPA has done it. Oh, wow. Maybe I should just turn off my camera. Okay, but can you still hear me?
No, I can hear you now.
I'm saying, can you still hear me?
No, I can't can't hear you, please. Can you be a bit audible?
Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. So what happened was that NEPA took their light, so it's currently very dark. So I will just turn off my video and just speak, right? Uh, so
Okay.
yeah, so I started, like I mentioned before, I got into entertainment and IP when I was trying to find myself, and eventually I got into it and I loved it, right? Because as a person, I'm really interested in storytelling, making stories, doing something creative and innovative. Yes, so that's how I really got started, right? And that was how I ventured fully into it in 2021. And since then, it's been so interesting, really interesting. And so what inspired me to carve a niche, right? I see that, in the entertainment space, a lot of young people want to drive their talent across. They want to, reach out with their talent. They have a message with their talent, but many of them don't understand that there has to be a structure, right? So when it comes to creativity and entertainment, one person would love the work, like that is, one person would love to do what they like to do. So you can find a person who likes to sing, you can find a person who wants to create, who is a creative producer. But beyond that as well, there has to be the angle of professionals, right? So please, can you hear me? Let me confirm if you can hear me.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't.
Wow.
Okay, I think we've lost her.
But can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So it means that we're going to be having a dark video. Apologies about that. I mean, NEPA just took off, right? So yeah, let me turn on my video so that I think with my video you can hear me, right? So we can just flow. Um, so yeah, like I was saying before now, so I figured that people want to create, but a lot of them don't know that they need to have the structure to create. So there are people that want to create stuffs, there are people that want to sing, they want to do animation videos, they want to tell stories, they want to produce, but there are also people that need to structure that talent so that that talent can make money, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I figured that there's a gap in the space. A lot of people want to create stuffs, but they need the professional, they need that professional support there in terms of legal advice, in terms of structuring their business development, talent management, and all of that. So when I saw the gap and I saw, okay, these are the kinds of people that I want to work with, I said, okay, it's better for me to just create a niche, right? Let me just create a niche here, and then let's just get right into it. So that was how I really carved a niche for myself in entertainment and IP, seeing that there was that gap there. And even till today, you see many screenwriters in the entertainment space who are looking to develop their films. They have fantastic, authentic stories, but they don't have the connect. They don't have the investors to jump on their project. They don't have the creative. So they need to have a middle. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm with you.
Fantastic. So they need to have a middle ground, right, in order to reach for those people who will help them to develop whatever it is they are creating. So there's that gap there, and that's why we exist, to close that gap and to enable talent to have their voices heard, even beyond Nigeria and across Africa. So yeah, that's the reason why I carved a niche for myself.
Okay, that is a very interesting story. So, can you tell us, as a film actor, what challenges did you face, especially with industry stakeholders?
Okay, so I can't hear you as well. I'm not hearing you anymore.
Okay, I will repeat my question. As a film actor, what challenges did you face, especially with industry stakeholders?
Okay, fantastic. So getting into the space, I mean, one of the challenges is what I just mentioned before now, seeing that people want to create, but they don't have the structure. They don't have the professionals to help them structure their talent so they can make consistent revenue from their IP, right? So that's one challenge. Another challenge is that it's a big space and it's highly driven by relationships. So when I got into the sector, I had to find my own people to ride on their shoulders, right? So entertainment is purely relationship. Okay, when you get into the space, you need to find people that love the work that you do, connect with them, give value. So that was the first thing I did, because I tried to, do a couple of things, and I saw that I was going to need relationships, right? So, in my own candid and honest opinion, one of the most important things that anybody can do once they get in there, anybody should do once they get into the industry really, is to ensure that they ride on the shoulders of those who have gone ahead. It can be really difficult sometimes, but when you build those relationships, you build those bridges, right? It's easier for you to get ahead faster because you're riding on the shoulders of others. And that's how life literally is, right? When you ride on the shoulders of others, you allow others to ride on your own shoulder too, so that everybody can keep adding value across the value chain. So yeah, that's what I did initially, right? I had to get past the challenge, move into the space, find mentors, and ride on the shoulders of other people. Yeah.
Oh, so what do you think that makes a great IP asset in a film?
So intellectual property literally is about um intellectual property literally in film is about copyright. So once a movie is created is automatically a copyright, right? So what happens in transactions in movies is that there's always an assignment of copyright, there's always a licensing. So when a screenwriter gets on a project to write a movie, you understand what I'm saying? When a screenwriter gets on a project to write a movie, the first thing that happens is the screenwriter is creating a copyright, and there has to be an assignment, a contract to assign the ownership of that copyright to the executive producer or to the investors who are going to invest in that movie, right? So it's all transactions, is all copyright. So the most important IP asset in a film is a copyright, right? It's the copyright. And by the time a person wants to create a sequel, for example, Black Panther had a sequel. Their sequel was Wakanda Forever. So when an organization or a production house wants to create a sequel, you get, so what they are really riding on is the copyright. So whatever transaction had existed before then, they have to be sure that they can suit it to the new franchise or to the new sequel of that movie, right? So that's why the most important IP asset in a film is the copyright. So there's a lot of transaction going on across the value chain. And that's why when you have an entertainment attorney to help you negotiate all these deals, you can be able to make money from that IP asset long term, depending on how you and the attorney will negotiate the deal with all the stakeholders in the movie. So yeah. So the most important IP asset in a movie is the copyright. There's another kind of IP asset which is the trademark. It can be peculiar to certain things as well. Maybe you want to trademark a movie character, or you want to trademark a type of brand in the business. But primarily it's copyright, and after copyright we now have trademarks. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think are the most important things Nollywood and policymakers do about IP economy?
Yeah, the industry is a billion-dollar industry. The entertainment sector is a billion-dollar industry. Trust me, it's a big sector, right? And it's creating a lot of job opportunities for people locally and internationally, right? Directors, producers, cinematographers, production designers, art directors. I mean, the job is there, right? And one thing that I know that Nollywood is doing for the economy is that Nollywood is increasing the capacity of the economy. People are beginning to recognize Nigeria for the state of creativity. I mean, Nollywood is more like the second biggest in the world, so that gives us some sort of reputation, both internationally, right? So it's doing a whole lot for the economy, and if we can tap into the opportunities, it will be really great, right? And it's one of the things that we are doing at, IP Business Capital. Although the economy is growing, but there's that gap in terms of partnerships and collaboration, right? In terms of co-investment, getting people to develop and invest in movies, especially movies written by people don't know. I mean, there are many people who have authentic African stories. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So there are
I
many
can
people
hear.
who have authentic. Fantastic, fantastic. So there are many people who have authentic African stories, but nobody knows them and they're trying to get their voices heard, right? So in terms of development, we can do better in terms of co-financing, in terms of co-production, in terms of development. Yeah, but as a whole, Nollywood is doing a whole lot for the Nigerian economy. I mean, we are being recognized today at the heart of Africa for what is happening in Nollywood. So Nollywood is doing amazingly well. Yeah.
Okay. So, can you tell us how IP train people that has creative mind?
What? I can't hear you well.
Can you tell us how IP train people that have creative mind? Because I also come across where I saw that IP has training level where they train people for film management and other things.
Yeah, so
Can
what's the
you hear me?
question? What's the
I say,
question?
can you tell us how IP train people on that?
Okay, so if I'm getting you correctly, what you're talking about is the fact that how exactly does training come in terms of the Nollywood space. So like I said before, there are different categories of training, right? There's training for film producers on how to produce film, production management. There's training on intellectual property, right? How to protect your IP assets, how to manage it well. There's a lot you can do with your IP assets. You can merchandise it, you can license it, okay? You can sell it outrightly. You can sell your catalogs of films and your catalogs of movies. You can engage in partnership and collaborations. There's a whole lot you can do with your IP asset depending on how you leverage it well. Okay, so there's that dimension to of training filmmakers on how to go about all those things and also helping them to do those things. So yeah, there are different ways to upskill. I know that screenwriters are currently in big demand now, so it's important for them to also upskill, and that's what we do at IP Business Capital. We help screenwriters to upskill. We produce entertainment events, where we can facilitate collaboration and co-production initiatives among Nollywood, stakeholders, right? So we do all of those things at IP Business Capital. It's one of our pioneering projects for us, to close all these gaps and to ensure that creatives are maximizing their IP assets properly.
Okay. So, how do you approach IP disputes in Nigeria, especially related to Nollywood?
I can't hear you, please.
How do you approach IP disputes in Nigeria, especially related to Nollywood?
So IP disputes can be approached by negotiation, mediation, or arbitration. So when we say negotiation, we are literally talking about two parties bringing their lawyers together to resolve the dispute. So they come to a table and say, okay, this is a challenge. What can we do? And then both parties negotiate and they reach a consensus. Mediation is a bit bigger than that. So you're coming under a mediation body with an appointed mediator to settle the disputes between both parties. So the appointed mediator will lead the conversation, right, between the lawyer, both lawyers on both sides, and the client on both sides. Okay. And so when a consensus is reached, then the mediation body now transfers the consensus to the court, and the court gives a final order. So that's the mediation process. But the arbitration process is usually very expensive, right? So because it's for the big guys, you know. So we always, it's more like mediation, but it's more advanced and it's very expensive. So we always advise that parties go for negotiation or they go for mediation. Now, I generally don't advise that people go to court, but people go to court when they have tried all of these options and it doesn't work. So they generally just resort to going to court. Yeah, so those are the methods through which IP disputes can be resolved.
Okay, so well, we're going to talk about today's topic: how Nigerian filmmakers can compete with best filmmakers globally on leveraging IP. Please, can you address us more on that, on how you think Nigerian filmmakers can compete with these best filmmakers globally?
Honestly speaking, I think it's not a competition game. I think it's a collaboration and partnership game. Right now, we have what it takes to collaborate and partner with organizations and with other filmmakers locally because we are being recognized as one of the best in film across Africa. So I think it's really about collaboration and partnership. It's not about competition, right? And I think one of the ways that we can really collaborate is to engage our people in development, right? We need to upskill our talents. We need to invest in co-production. We need to invest in co-investment. Okay, so these things have to be going, and then we need to begin to facilitate collaborations between those in the Europe, those in the West, and those who are here in Nigeria. I mean, we see it happening in the music space. We see Burna Boy
Yes,
singing in international conferences. We see Whiskey. We see the likes of Davido, Tiwa Savage. So we can. That's what we need to do for Nollywood. We need to facilitate collaboration and partnerships. So it's not really an issue of competition. It's an issue of collaboration. It's an issue of partnership, and it's an issue of developing our talent so that they can operate at that level. And that's what we do at the African Creative Hub. The African Creative Hub is an initiative of IP Business Capital, and we are focused on helping filmmakers to develop both the technical and soft skills that they need to tell authentic African stories, right? I wrote an interesting article on LinkedIn where I mentioned some of the things that we can start to do as a country and as a continent to scale our creative content. Very interesting. It's not even an article, it's a short LinkedIn content. Very interesting content. So, I mean, these are things that partners and stakeholders in Nollywood need to start thinking about because we have what it takes to get there. So, we need to start thinking of partnerships, we need to start thinking of collaborations, and we need to start thinking of co-investments. So, yeah, that's what we need to start doing. So, we don't focus on competition, but we focus on collaboration. Yeah.
yes. So, what advice do you have to give Nigerian filmmakers on IP?
So, yeah, I mean, Nigerian filmmakers exploit your IP. The sky is not the limit. Exploit your IP. There's so much you can do with your IP. I'm sure you've seen all the interesting things happening in IP in entertainment and IP. You can license your IP
That's
to gaming solutions. You can license, I mean, you can merchandise, you can partner, you can collaborate. So IP is the future. In fact, we're already seeing it. IP is here to stay. So, I mean, people should begin to think of how they can exploit their intellectual property to make money. And that's why you need professionals on your team. You need the lawyers, you need the accountants, you need the business executives. All of these people will help you see the value in the IP that is hidden, right? And you will need lawyers to help you draft all the transactions and close the deals. Okay, so the truth is that my advice to IP, my advice to Nigerian filmmakers, I mean, is to just keep doing it. Develop your talent, network in the industry, go for it, protect your intellectual property. Yes, protect your IP. Before you can even exploit your IP, you need to protect it. Nobody needs to tell you that. So that when there's an issue or anything, you can tell the people that look, I have ownership. Oh, you understand? So protect it, license it, work with professionals, build your craft, and you will see that you'll get there in no time. Yeah.
okay. Thank you for that special and wonderful advice. I really appreciate that. So, right
And
now we're going
apologies.
to,
Apologies, it's very dark here. NEPA has they have done their worst. today.
Um, apology accepted. I believe we will understand because that's one of Nigerian problems that we are
I'm
facing.
telling you. I'm telling you.
It's okay. So right now we'll be welcoming any one of us to ask you questions if they do have any questions for you. So if you're online and you have any questions to ask our guests, you can. This is the time. This is the time to clarify the hair. So you can bring on your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, uh, Mrs. Ololade. We really appreciate you being here. I didn't know, is Nigeria part of any intellectual property agreement at the international continental level and the international level? Maybe with the advent of Africa Free Continental Agreement. Is Nigeria participating in anything, or whether with WIPO or other, to protect Nollywood content and introduce
Yeah.
the world industry at large? Please tell us more.
Fantastic question. Fantastic. So yeah, in terms of WIPO, right? WIPO, they have different bilateral agreements that protect copyright content internationally. So Nigeria is a part of the Benin Convention, right? So that Benin Convention ensures that you can protect your copyright internationally, although still subject to certain laws in those countries, because there are always selected countries that have, that have ratified those agreements to make it implementable in their own domestic countries. So Nigeria is a part of the Benin Convention as well, you know, and a lot of copyright protection can go on in that space. Another thing that people do, another thing that IP practitioners do is that they try to protect the intellectual property in certain countries where they have a market. So intellectual property protection shouldn't just be done randomly, right? So if you are trading in certain markets, then you try to protect your intellectual property in those markets, right? Because it's really expensive to do a global protection. You're going to be running in dollars. So you want to be more strategic to protect copyright in certain countries where you already have operations going on there, right? That's one. And there's another thing that can also be done as well. WIPO, they have a digital collection database for protecting copyrighted assets apart from the Benin Convention. So what creators do, maybe those in the NFT spaces and all of that. So what they do mostly is that they log in into that WIPO specific platform, and they kind of do some sort of remission into those platforms, so that those platforms can digitally recognize their assets as their own. So there's some sort of technology that they use for all of that, right, at WIPO, to ensure that those digital assets remain the owners, remain affiliated to the owners, right? And so if there's a case of infringement, they can just pull it out and say, look, we have this already we have this already copyrighted. Okay, and it's easy for them to enforce their rights. So those are some of the options that can be applied in terms of international protection of copyrights. Yeah, but to answer your question specifically, in terms of protection for filmmakers internationally, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. So what lawyers would rather do is to have agreements that protect your interests, because whenever you're getting into contract, agreements are important. So what a solid lawyer will do for you is to draft a concrete agreement that protects your legal interest and that protects your interest in whatever copyrighted assets that you have. So that's what will work in the absence of having a holistic organization that protects, film that protects film or film materials or finished film products, from infringement. So yeah.
You don't talk about AFTA. Is AFTA don't have any arrangement for intellectual property? Okay, hello, Choma.
Yes, and I'm with you. I think we
Okay,
lost her.
can you come close to the camera? It seems to be.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, the framing is okay. Come close again. Maybe.
Okay.
I think it's what it's.
Better?
Yeah, it's more better like this.
Okay.
Probably we lost Olalade, and okay, she's back. She's back.
Okay.
It was a network issue. So in respect to
Can
actor,
you hear
you
us?
know, eh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You can.
Fantastic. So AFTCA, they have an IP protocol for intellectual property rights. Okay, but it's not yet fully in operation. So they are working on the protocol. The protocol is out. So they are still gathering fact data. I think it's on the second level or thereabout. So it's not fully in operation at the moment. And in fact, if you would like to engage disputes on an AFTCA level, there's a separate procedure for that. It's not a one court procedure. You get, it's very intense and it's a very deliberate process, right? So you want to consider options, right? You want to first do negotiation, you want to do mediation, or you want to do arbitration, or you want to consider options before you want to go into, because AFTCA, they are very intense over there and it's very rigorous. It's very, so because they are very detailed and it's a lot more deeper than you would ever imagine, right? But that's on that level. They already have that protocol existing, but I don't think it's fully operational because it's still on the second level. It takes stages for those protocols to be enforceable and to be adopted by member states. So yeah, that's really what that is about. You can consider other options instead of going international and then being subjecting yourself to different rigorous processes that might take longer than you even expect. So yeah, you can consider options.
From what you are saying, it seems to be the Nigerian film industry, to be specifically Nollywood, is more focused on negotiation because we are not. There is not that any hard dispute or any litigation about copyright in the industry. Even at so many levels, there are some infringements of IP in the
Yeah,
industry.
the truth of the matter is there are issues with respect to trademark. And I don't know if you heard about this Domitila matter that was in court and that the Federal High Court struck it out. They took it to the trademark registry. Trademark registry struck it out. So there are issues like that, but there are not many. But trust me, in the next coming years, it's going to be a whole lot because IP is evolving. So issues like that happen, but there are not many. So what many of these lawyers do with their clients is that they negotiate out of court, which is the best thing to do. IP is a very personal matter. You get, IP is not something that you should throw into the court. There's no pride in taking those issues to court because your matter is in the news, your matter is in the public. Who knows? You don't know whether stakeholders are watching you. I mean, all those things can, because it's IP we are talking about. So, what smart lawyers do is to engage in conversations, is to try to reach a consensus, is to do a negotiation, to do arbitration, or to do something close ended, and that's the smartest way to go about it because it's faster. You don't stress a lot. If you take a matter to court, do you know how many years you're going to be in court dragging over issues? There was one particular artist that took MTN to court. MTN gave a verdict 7 years after, and of course the verdict was in their favor because they asked MTN to pay them money for using the guy's song without his express permission. Who does that? 7 years. Why would you want to drag a matter for 7 years in court when you can skillfully negotiate a consensus and leave the entire thing and get out with something as well? So that's why it's not much in the court. But trust me, there are cases in court that deals on copyright, trademark infringement, and all of that. But they are just there hanging because the procedural, um, you know, the procedural process is a bit tedious, right? So that's why we always opt out for negotiation and mediation, because usually the best way is faster, and you don't get to put your ass in the public. You don't get to put your matter in the public. Not everybody knows what's going on with you. So you come together, you negotiate, and you close the matter, and everybody goes home happy, right? So that's the reason why a lot of entertainment attorneys would rather prefer to arrange for negotiation instead of having to do court matters. Yeah.
You talk of drafting agreements
Yeah.
or stops legal document that will protect creative content.
Yeah.
How the industry is accepting such services from lawyers, from film and entertainment lawyers in Nigeria?
I didn't get your question. How is what?
How the industry and its stakeholders, I mean producers, production houses, are
Mm-hmm.
accepting, are welcoming services from entertainment and film lawyers in Nigeria to draft such document that will give them so much protection of their creative content.
I mean, there's nobody who is doing anything creative right now that is not engaging a lawyer. You want to be sure that if they bring a 30-page contract to you to sign, you want to be sure that you're not signing out your life. You want to give it to a lawyer to review, to negotiate for you and redraft. So, I mean, that's standard professional practice. Find out from creative producers who are earning well in the industry. They will tell you they have a lawyer, they will tell you they have an accountant, they will tell you they have a business executive. So that's a standard practice. It's not a function of whether it's standard. So there are two things. Either you play on a small level, right? Or you play on a big level and you work with professionals. But it's a standard practice, and that should be how it should be done, literally.
And you mean the stakeholders, the producers and film houses, production houses are going on with such a standard?
Yes, those who are doing well have those standards in place. I don't know about those who are not doing well, but those who are doing well, they have those professional ethics in place where they engage accountants. I mean, you want to run a project, you want to do a film project, you must think of budgeting, you must think of the investors you're bringing on board, you must have it structured. There has to be a recruitment plan. You have to be able to communicate the numbers to the executive producers. If not, they won't buy into it if they can't see the numbers. So how do you want to communicate the numbers without having professionals on board? Take for instance, we have about 3 production houses who are looking to invest in a content. How do you want to negotiate the rights and the obligations? How do you want to negotiate the rights and the obligations among these professionals if there is no contract? And it's a long-term agreement. It's a long term content that is being put out there. So if there's no professional to negotiate those things and to set the pace running, there will be conflict. So filmmaking is a project, and when you're dealing with a project, there has to be structure in place, both from the legal perspective and from the finance perspective. If not, it will crash. It will crash. So for those who are doing well in the space, check them out. They have professionals working with them. Those who are playing small, yeah, so that's it.
That is you mean the how the kind of people like organization like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Showmax, storming Nollywood, and the guys they
Beyond
play
that,
with.
yes, I'm listening to you.
Okay, you mean all such guys, all such organizations storming the industry, they were tackled and vetted by professionals that are working with these local production houses in Nigeria before signing any co-production or any investment deal.
I can't hear you well, Mr. Musa. Can you speak out? I can't hear you.
Mr.
Okay,
Musa, can you please?
okay, I mean, you mean organizations like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Showmax. some in Nollywood, they all were baited by lawyers like you before any co-production deals were signed with local production houses.
Yes, exactly. It's not just Netflix, other production houses. If you do your research well, other production houses, they engage lawyers and they engage professionals in order to get their work done properly well. Yeah.
I mean, this is a very good development, and I do believe with the likes of you advocating with such energy, the industry will get to accept the services of great lawyers like you and accountants in uplifting the industry. And I don't know if you could, I from our end, the last time we got to do some of our research with the likes of Jide Osiveru, Kule Afolayan, and the rest. I mean, how they accommodate experts like you have helped them a lot because Jide Osimeru, though she has been long in the industry, but her background and financial skills and management skills have helped her a lot in assessing funds to produce content like Gangs of Lagos, The Trade, and so much.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. You're right.
I think let's check. Choma, do we have questions from the audience?
So, if anybody still have a question, you can still bring it up. We are accepting questions. We are here for questions. So, if you have any question, you can still bring it up. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Musa, for those wonderful questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Choma.
Yeah, no problem. And if we don't have any other person in the building,
Okay, maybe in the absence of question, I don't know if Olalade can say something or have a commentary about the works of
yes,
Inside Nollywood, and if you have some advice for us.
Yeah, so
and
inside
what is
Nollywood, um, I see that. Okay, Chama, you wanted to say something?
you can proceed. You can proceed.
Okay. So inside Nollywood, I see that you guys are doing a lot of work in terms of film education, film awareness, film festivals, and all of that. Keep up the good work. Uh, I believe that to scale what you're doing, you will need people, you need professionals, you need industry stakeholders, you need partnerships, you need collaborations, you know. So yeah, that's how you can really scale what you're doing, right? And get into the faces of the right people. It's a big industry, it's a big sector. You can also find your niche, look at the areas that are needed, right? Look at the areas that are needed in the sector, look at the gap, and then feel a need and build a solution around the gap. I think you guys are doing an amazing work, and I trust to see you guys at the top. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's actually a pleasure hearing everything you have to say to us. And I believe it will impact a lot in our minds because it's actually a lot. I picked a lot from what you said and I learned a lot too, which I believe most of us did as well. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you very much, Yoma. Thank you, Mr. Musa. I
Okay,
have to
thank you.
catch up now.
We have a question. Maybe I saw a question from our audience.
From the
You say
comment,
yes. Some producers are complaining that they submitted film to terrestrial TV for over 4 years now. They are yet to be paid. So, but they have aired the film. Okay, I don't know what he is trying to ask. But maybe there are issues like many local content creators are in hungry to offer their movies to terrestrial TV stations and other streaming platforms. But even when they signed an agreement that, oh, will be paid in installment every 3 months, or will paid based on adverts or other, like, still they get a lot of misunderstanding like that. Maybe let's
So
tell
yeah,
the audience
I
how
understand.
issues
I
like this can be
understand what
solved.
he's saying. I understand what he's saying. So sometimes there are international collaborations where some producers will give their movies to international sales agents to distribute it in other countries. So they distribute on Disney TV, they distribute on, different, like, because there are different distribution platforms apart from Netflix and apart from Showmax, all those mini ones in the market. And then for years they don't get to see anything, but people are hearing the movie. So now it depends on the transaction that you have with those sales agents. That's why we say that before you get into transactions, engage lawyers. Lawyers will foresee the risks, they will understand the challenge, the peculiarities of the transaction. They'll bring their industry experience to the game, and they will help you to foresee the potential risks. I was working with a client of mine, he's based in the UK. He's a sales and distribution agent, reached out to me that somebody was going to push out a film catalog so that they can publish it on some distribution channels. By the time I started to highlight the loopholes in that transaction, the transaction didn't go on anymore. So you want to involve lawyers, you want to involve professionals. The reason why that movie is airing on TV and those guys are not being paid is because there was a problem with the transaction from the beginning. You see, how do you recover your money? If you want to recover your money, then you need to go back to the basics, which is the contract. What does the dispute resolution term in that contract say? How did you guys mention that you're going to be resolving your IP disputes? What are the terms and obligations of both parties? So you can't just wake up one morning and say you want to give your movie to an international distributor and then you don't see anything. I mean, it means that there's a foundational problem with the contract. Again, back to why you need to work with lawyers and professionals. So yeah.
You mean whenever you are going to get involved in such transaction, first at advisory level and contract drafting, it seems to be like a must to engage the service of lawyers, accountants, and people like that to foresee all the challenges that may comes in the future.
Definitely, it's advisable to do so.
And another one, he said like uh, film lawyers and entertainment lawyers in Nigeria are very expensive. Are very expensive. So how
Yes,
could someone?
yes, they are very expensive, but you can always approach them and talk to them and see how you can work out a plan, or work out a plan or a retainership strategy. So don't just conclude that people are expensive. If you want to do good business, invest in it. Don't just say, if you're building something, if you're working on something for long term, you're not just there to play games. So you invest in professionals. That's how you can scale what you're doing. You invest in professionals. Yeah.
So can you
Any
predict
further?
the industry in 10 years to come? I mean, Nollywood at large, and to be specifically IP economy in Nollywood.
Yeah, so in the next few years, Nollywood is going to be doing amazing things in animations. There's a lot of, animations. Nollywood is going to be doing amazing things in merchandise. It's coming because once the animation is coming, merchandise will follow. Merchandise will follow. So those two things, yeah, opportunities there. Yeah.
Then what about the IP economy? I mean, the merchandise is there, but IP economy at large.
Yeah, so the IP economy is the film economy. IP is film. So if I say IP economy at large, there'll be opportunities for IP lawyers to play in the space. There will be opportunities for, for IP lawyers to provide advisory, you know, and there'll be opportunities for IP experts to do great work, right? So yeah.
So maybe in the absence of question, thank you very much, Ma. We do appreciate your time, and thanks to your presence, and we also appreciate the Nepal people.
For
At
bringing
least they
back the
give,
light. We
yes,
appreciate them.
I think we have other questions. I think we'll have other questions. So can we just touch on them before we round up, please?
okay. What are the questions? Where are the questions?
Yes, there
Okay,
are other questions on the
okay.
comment.
Is there is there anything like entertainment law in Nigeria?
Yeah, definitely. There's something known as entertainment law in Nigeria. Yeah. I mean that's what we've been talking about all the while. So there is.
So maybe maybe when we are starting in the industry, like the few people I got to know, I know one of my senior colleagues. I mean, it's not a senior colleague. Barrister Yahya Mekori of Chocolate City. Then I can't remember this guy. There are few practitioners, and you, for instance, who is not dominating the industry. Is there any like young lawyers having a niche and coming to follow your paths?
Definitely, yeah. So we have specific trainings for IP practitioners who want to develop their craft and their skills. So at IP Business Capital, we do that. We train young lawyers, we train young professionals to get into the space. It's one of the things we do. Yeah. So if you like to partner with us, we are open to partnerships, we're open to collaborations. Let's see how we can work together, and let's see how we can drive, the film and the entertainment economy. Let's see how we can drive it forward together. So we are open to partnerships and we're open to collaborations. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to. Any question, Chioma?
No further questions, Mr.
So, in the absence of questions, let me give you an opportunity to wrap up the show. Thank you very much, Olalade. We do appreciate your time, and in a short notice, accepting our invitation. We are proud to have you in our midst and for your contribution to the upliftment of knowledge at a large. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic night ahead. Bye.
So, thank you very much. This word fantastic is, I love it. You like the word fantastic. Maybe sometime you share us the genesis of your relationship with the word fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Ololade. Thank